I care about water because I see it as a connecting thread of humanity. Water is timeless. Water is joy. Providing clean water for people no matter where they are is a hallmark of humanity. That's what brings me to water, is people. In the next 30 years, we will see the population in Texas double. And during that same period of time, we're headed on a trajectory where there will be less water available to us. In Texas, the way that we've framed water law recognizes actually 3 distinct types of water. There's surface water. That's technically the property of the state of Texas, but you can have the right to take water from that system based on when you first started using the water. Groundwater is a completely different type of right. Groundwater is the property of the landowner, but there's lots of places in the state known as white areas where there is no regulation of how much groundwater can be produced. And then the third type of water that hardly anybody ever talks about is called diffuse surface water. So that's water that might come from an air conditioning system. It's water that would be captured on a roof in the form of rainwater. It's the same molecules of water, but they're distinct legal constructs. In many places of the state, water that starts on the surface, enters the ground, becomes groundwater, emerges back into a surface water. They're deeply interconnected. Most of the rivers in the state of Texas start in the state of Texas. They end up in the Gulf of Mexico. They begin as groundwater. It used to be that when we thought about any water that was allowed to flow downstream and into the Gulf of Mexico was water wasted. That is no longer the way that we can afford to think about our water. The fresh water that flows into those basin estuaries maintains the health in the Gulf of Mexico. This is a landscape scale challenge. Statewide, we've seen a decline in groundwater levels. We've not just seen it, we've planned for it, and we continue to plan for it. Comanche Springs was once one of Texas's 5 largest springs. It's about 30 million gallons a day of water pouring out of the ground in Fort Stockton. Right after World War II, groundwater production came into play at a much larger level than had ever happened before in that area. And shortly thereafter, the spring started to sputter. Within the span of a decade, the 30 million gallons a day of flow dropped to nothing. It led to a water law case that is still quoted today, which ultimately concluded that groundwater users did not have liability for reducing the water availability to others on the system. In Texas, we have real fluidity in the way that we can manage our water rights. It actually lends itself to the use of markets to ensure that water is kept in stream for people and for nature. And that's why Texas Water Trade was created, to become a facilitator and an enabler of the development of voluntary water markets, and to do it in a way that creates economic gains and quality of life, whether you're in rural Texas, urban Texas, or whether you're on the coast. That's our vision and that's our purpose. We have a working example of exactly what we need to do throughout the state of Texas in the Edwards Aquifer near San Antonio, where you have an active water market to manage a limited supply. And to do that while keeping farming intact, to do it while dramatically growing a population, bringing new industry on board. Growth didn't stop in San Antonio because we recognized the limitation of water resources. It continued. And markets were part of it. And technology was part of it. And planning was part of it. And we have those tools everywhere in the state at our disposal if we use them. But we have to use them because without planning for it, without paying for the value of water in stream, you will see more places go dry. You will see more Comanche Springs. So Texas Water Trade is working across the state with conservation partners to create voluntary solutions with private property owners, with river authorities, with others who hold water rights to create water security. We believe that Comanche Springs can be brought back to year-round flow through voluntary cooperation with groundwater owners in that area, reduce groundwater pumping, and restore springs to year-round flow again, where once more people can experience the magic of water. If you are a project developer, building a new subdivision, building a new building, we have the ability to work together to do that in a way that creates no new demand for water. Economic growth does not have to come at the cost of magic, the magic of water.